The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, this is Carl Seidel. We're leading off on the show of The People's View. And then we have Senator Kevin Avard and hopefully Republican from Ward 3.
State Rep this fall, David Schonemen, yeah.
Dave Schonemen. Dave, how about telling us all why you joined it? And then we'll have Kevin talk about what's happening up there, so he'll let you know what you're in for.
Sure, it sounds great. I'm always impressed with the American system of self-government. I think that self-government doesn't mean that we choose our oppressors. That's not self-government. Self-government means that we take an opportunity when we have the chance to step up and serve in the legislature, to represent our constituents and to go up there and contribute. You know, you grow up here in America and people are making our decisions for us. But we reach an age where now it's our turn to step up and to do something. And I feel very strongly that when we have an opportunity to do that, we should. That's why I ran for alderman and served as an alderman from 2013 to 2017. That was a great experience dealing with local stuff. And I like to see what's going on up in the state and contribute to the direction that the fine state of New Hampshire is going here.
I think a lot of people do that as well. They start off either on zoning, planning, or alderman, city councilor. And their eyes get opened to the process of how things are done locally. And then, of course, you hear through the grapevine things that are happening up at the state and how they affect you locally. And so it spurs on this, well, you know, I think I can contribute to that. And I applaud you for doing what you're doing.
Well, thanks, same here for you.
Yeah, it's an honor, and we're glad that you're stepping up to the plate.
Well, it's also interesting to see with the curtain kind of pulled back what really goes on. Because I think if someone just reads a paper or sees the news, they're missing out on much of the drama. And there can be quite a bit of drama and infighting and all the rest of it. We don't want that. We want to have level-headed and good sound judgment and practical fiscal policy, those kinds of things. But so much gets lost. And my goal is to bring some stability and some accountability and some honesty and integrity to the process.
I think you find it, and I hope you follow his trip up here. You started out in 2010, and you jumped up into the Senate, and now this is your third term in the Senate?
This is my third term. I'll be running for a fourth term. And I did start off with zoning and planning board up in the Franklin area, and I served 2 terms as a city councilor. And again, it was one of those things where it was a free education.
Sure.
You know, as to the process of how things are done. And you learn how you can be effective and how you can help other people in the process, whether it's a zoning issue or a variance or, you know, during the budget, stuff like that. But as you learn, it kind of whets your appetite to see, well, what else is going on up there. But, you know, you mentioned something about, you know, the level-headedness and, you know, basically going up there to accomplish something instead of fighting. And not taking for granted what the media has to say about issues. And if I can just give a quick shout out to Dick Gagnon.
Well, tell us,
you know, Dick Gagnon, it was one of his dreams that he used to run the station here, and he recently passed. But it was one of his dreams that local access or the ability to monitor what's going on in committees and in the chambers, whether the House chamber or the Senate chambers, as a live process, so that, you know, if people doubted, you know, what the news basically would, you know, water down, you can actually go back online and now look at what was being actually said and how it was debated. And if something was offensive rather than, you know, taken out of context. That was Dick's dream, and it did happen. And during, you know, his period, it wasn't, you know, he didn't influence that particular, but that's a beautiful way for the public to stay informed without the crutch of the media interpreting it for you.
Well, I think that by having some of us up there interviewing some of the people and then showing it around also helped the legislature come out with its own system of people looking at the different committees. I mean, you have 2 committees in the Senate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and tell us what things you worked on?
Actually, I'm on 3. Actually,
3?
yeah, I'm vice chair of rules as well, and which means that I'm obligated that with every piece of legislation that gets passed, I go in and I sign, and if there are grammatical errors or an explanation to define what the legislator actually meant in rolled rules, I go in there and I just make sure that it's accurate, and then I sign that. But yeah, I'm HHS. I'm in Health and Human Services. There's a lot going on there. A lot of mental health issues. We had a lot of vaccine bills, a lot of things on ivermectin, and COVID was one of them. Freedom of medical vaccines. There was one which really drew a lot of attention, was the vaccine registry. And originally, the vaccine registry was something that it was supposed to be opt-in. You wanted to participate in that, all well and good, but somehow it became mandatory. And so we had a bill that came in and talked a little bit about that as well. And you listen to the arguments pro and against, and I can understand why some people would rather have the state having that in their system, so you don't have to carry around, well, when were you vaccinated for whatever. However, there are other people that really cherish their privacy, and they want that one time. I don't want to be part of this. It's none of your business. Leave me alone. So we respected that, and so we did pass
I think
that.
that's a big thought on a lot of people that are up there.
Was it Neil Kirk?
Yeah.
He was a very big
very
advocate
much,
for privacy, and that was one of the issues. I know that Senator Cindy pushed a little bit more on the disability for dental for the disability community. That's something I tried to get passed. It didn't pass the House, and when I was last term, she brought it up again, and we finally got it passed. That's important for the disability community because what was happening is if you had issues with your mouth and they couldn't tell you what was wrong, well, you'd go to the emergency room. Well, now the cost just goes exponentially. So this way, it gives them like routine cleaning and general care, but that should lower the cost over the long term for health care. If you have a healthy mouth, you have a healthy heart. And that was something that was really important. Mental, a lot of people were talking about mental illness and stuff like that.
That was a big subject because of the people they didn't have a way of handling them.
Yeah, and I think it'll still be an ongoing issue. And of course, with the recent gun violence and stuff like that, a lot of people are worried in pushing for more gun control.
Is that happening up in Concord?
There were some suggestions about it, but it didn't get moved forward. New Hampshire is concealed carry, and we actually allowed constitutional carry. Yeah, and we actually allow now. The governor just signed into law so that you can carry while you're on your ATVs and things like that, because you can carry while you're in a car. New Hampshire has the lowest crime rate in the country, one of the lowest, and we're one of the safest. We have the lowest unemployment, and we have a lot of money set in reserves right now. By reducing taxes, it seems to encourage more production. It just works every time we do this.
It's done it for 4 years in a row.
And every time we produce this, and if the keys change to the other side, they find a real quick way to spend it. And
has there been any movement from the other side, from the Democrat side, to agree and to accept that cutting taxes
no,
feeds economic growth?
no.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. We have inflation these days, right? We have big inflation going on. Gas prices are terrible. And one of the things that Biden's talking about doing is reducing the federal gas tax, or Washington is talking about reducing the federal gas tax. So on some level, there's an acknowledgement that by reducing taxes, we're helping American families. But where does the disconnect? Why is there such a disconnect when it comes to other taxes? Why not reduce taxes on everything to help the American family?
And as Barack Obama said, it's just a gimmick. That whole ploy is just a gimmick. And what it'll do, it will increase demand, and our demand is already at crisis level.
So you think that reducing the tax is going to cause inflation to go higher?
The
gas prices to
It
go
will
higher.
create more of a demand. People will probably, tank up a little bit more, blah blah blah. But it's just a temporary fix. It's eventually you're going to have to pay the piper for it.
Well, I think it is just temporary, but I think, to me, the key thing is production.
It is production, and the executive orders that started off on day one, to cut the Keystone Pipeline. Why?
Yeah,
And now we're begging, Saudi Arabia,
right.
to produce more. Why is global warming not affecting over there? It's more over here. It's okay for you to drill over there, but not over here.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind that? I thought it really ironic too. Just recently, if you've been paying attention, we get a lot of the global warming group, climate change, and some people really bow down to that, and yet at the same time, President Obama got a variance for an oversized propane tank on Martha's Vineyard. Now this is fact. Now, why is it okay for him, to hoard?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things that
It's
they're
very
they're
contradictory.
doing. It doesn't make sense.
No.
Because giving away our reserve isn't going to do more than an hour's worth of gas. Is what.
And it puts us in a perilous position. The
Yeah.
reason we have reserve is for national security. So now we're at more of a risk. Our productions, we've had refineries burning, and I don't think there has been a new refinery built for the last 50 years. Don't quote me on
It's
that.
not quite that long, but
been a long
is
time.
It's been a
while.
long time. But that being said, I mean, I'm sure there's modern equipment that could be developed.
But a businessman's looking at it, and he's saying, "You're going to put me out of business. Why should I build new
That's
production?"
true. Right. Yeah.
You
That
know?
is true as well.
And the way they act, anything so you're not using their fuels, the fossil fuels.
And there is an irony as well. I'm all for all the above. When we're regarding energy and use of energy, and I think these electric cars are a wonderful thing. But folks must remember that generated power comes from somewhere, either from gas or coal. And the coal plants are firing up, and of course they're generating electricity. Obviously, there's hydro, there's solar, but it's not baseload power. And baseload is the key, and you want key. That's why people are using natural gas and coal. And so now that the natural gas is spiking, that's all a reason why some of our energy costs are going through the
Well,
roof.
that's one of the reasons that the electric companies are charging more now and putting in almost doubling their charge.
And the thing is sometimes they buy out 3 years in advance.
Right.
So there's not going to be a quick fix. There's going to be some temporary relief. I know Governor Sununu and Senator Morris and Senator Bradley have been talking about using some of our reserves to give relief to those that are indigent in New Hampshire. Those the ratepayers, and there'll be some other programs to take the sting out of what the PUC basically said the rates are going to go up exponentially.
Well, we're going to have some talking to somebody who is experiencing this later on in the show. So, but it is something that affects a lot of people, especially people with a limited income.
Yeah.
And if you have other problems, medical problems or something like that, it is very, very important to what people can do.
It isn't just for that person or for people in that situation. One of the first rules of economics, and it sounds so simple, but the first rule of economics is you cannot spend the same dollar twice. So if we're spending extra money at the gas pumps, it means that we don't magically get this bank account replenished in the same amount. It means that we're doing less saving, or we're doing less consuming, or less traveling, or buying hot dogs instead of steak. We're doing something different because you can't spend the same dollar twice. And so it affects everybody. And I think that's why nationally people are so upset. And you hear all the time about inflation and the economy are really the two drivers for what people are thinking about these days. And I think it's true. I think it's going to carry forward for the next 6 to 12 months at least.
Oh, absolutely. There's no quick fix for what's going on. And I think that people, not to be alarming, but people should be prepared. And, I was listening to a financial radio show this morning, and the host asked the guest, so what are you doing? And he says, well, are you worried? He says, yes. And I'm no longer buying, the name brands. I'm buying the store brands, Market Basket. And I thought that was really telling. Why? That's interesting. So what you're spending extra. I do all the food shopping. I know I say this every time I'm practically on here, but I've watched 4 packages of rice at $1 a piece. Now it was $5 for $1. Now it's $2.50 for one.
Yeah,
it's
ridiculous on some of these things that get. You wonder what's justified and what isn't.
But that's affecting everybody that's basically on a fixed income. One of the worries that a lot of people are still talking about, and I know it's campaign year, but I'm telling you that this border crisis is going to affect us. The fact that the Homeland Security they pushed for another $4 to $6 billion for the border, but it wasn't to shut the border down. It was to be able to transport these illegals across the country. That's a fact. And so if they're coming into the community, number one, are they vaccinated? Number two, are they criminals? Are there background checks? How are they going to put into the system? Are they going to be using up the school system? Are they going to be using the health care? And who's going to be paying for all these services which they've not contributed to? That's right. It's you, the local folks. And so that's going to add insult to injury of what the American people are suffering for right now. So we have to address that. In addition to that, people are talking about fentanyl. That's coming across the border. And, everybody wanted the marijuana in the state of New Hampshire, but now they're talking about how a lot of the free-base marijuana is being laced with fentanyl, and kids are dying. And recently, we shut down a bill allowing pot to be sold here in New Hampshire. It was just a bill, it was a bill to say, let's make it legal. But there were no guardrails. There were no safety nets. It was just, okay, let's make it legal. So you buy something on the street, you don't know what's in it. And the repercussions, and as far as driving DUI under the influence, there's no way of testing. So we shut it down. People are saying, well, all the other states are doing it. Well, okay.
They're having lots of problems too.
Yeah, but nobody wants to talk about that, and it doesn't make the air. It doesn't get on the news. Hey, we're growing. You look at all these tax dollars that are coming in. It's not always just about the money, but there are consequences that come along with this.
4 years ago, we did a study on that, and nobody seems to want to follow it because, well, the study didn't come out with any recommendations of yes or no. It tells you if you did legislate it legally, you had to do all these things, and it's going to take the administration at least 3 years to get everything lined up.
Right, and they just wanted to ramrod this through, and so I know even Americans for Prosperity came out against those that voted against it. But hey, it is what it is. You know, if you're going to do something, you got to do it right. And I think it was basically done helter skelter, and then it becomes a political
But
ad.
that's their thing. Isn't that the way they're doing everything?
Yeah.
I mean, right? You state from the first time with the presidential orders cutting off the new pipeline, and then Afghanistan, they do one thing without looking beyond how to do it, how to implement it, how to protect yourself from bad things happening.
Well, that's something that we learned, you know, in the House and in the Senate. You know, you put in a piece of legislation, what's the ripple effect?
Right.
And there are always consequences. The reason there was a fence put up is because somebody thought it was a good idea. So before you take the fence down, do a little history. You know, why is this put there? You know, it's just common sense, and you know, you create a new freedom for a host of issues that now, okay, how are we going to pay for this? And so I think you know, that was a strong debate. We had a lot of issues about that, freedom from vaccines, and that got shot
Let's
down.
talk about freedom for a second. Freedom is an interesting concept, I think. I certainly believe in the importance of freedom and the American way, all those kinds of things. But you know, freedom, I think these days people want to be, quote, free to do something without any consequences. And there's this belief that, well, I should be free to do it and not suffer consequences. I think that if we take the consequences away from, as an effect of our choice, then are we really free? If we make a choice and we then, based on that choice, we either enjoy the benefit or suffer the consequences, now that choice that we've made has meaning, and that's freedom. But if we make a choice and we don't have anything happen as a result of it, we don't benefit, maybe it's taken away in taxes, or we don't lose because there's some kind of a safety net like loan forgiveness kind of a thing, then that choice that we made based on a belief in freedom isn't really freedom at all.
Right.
So we have to have reasonable consequences, good and bad. As soon as we eliminate those, and I think there's a big push to eliminate consequences from the choices that we're making.
Yeah.
And then we're not really gaining freedom. That's not freedom.
You know,
Live
and,
free or die.
and talking about, you know, there's a root problem that's going on in the country. You know, we're seeing violence is increasing over and over again, and it's more and more. It seems like we're breaking records, and you know, everybody's saying, well, it's the gun's fault. Well, is it the gun's fault? Is it the knife's fault? What is the reason? What is causing the anger? What is causing, and don't blame Trump.
Right.
This is an individual choice that people are doing. What is causing these young kids or these people to go in and just shoot a bunch of little kids and say, hey, good night? What developed it? Is that evil? Or is it mental illness? Is it both? What is causing them to think that this is acceptable? You know, we have debates over cigarettes. And, you know, years ago, if you looked at a lot of the black and white movies, there were smoke-filled rooms. And if you watch Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes, you're watching the Mike Wallace show, and the cigarette is Parliament. And that was banned from TV. Why? Because it influenced kids. So they took these things off the air because they wanted our society to stop smoking or to reduce it, because there was a health consequence. Our nation was getting sick and they were overloading the hospitals. And follow my reasoning with this. So if watching a commercial influences a child to pick up a cigarette because you want to look like the Marlboro Man, yeah, that looks cool. Well, if that was bad, then these video games and the music that these kids spend at hours and hours and hours, not a blip of commercial, where all they're doing is gratuitous killing. Could that possibly have an effect on their minds and create mental illness or a desire to do evil, if you accept the evil? You have to start looking at this. They're not the babysitter. You don't put the kid in the room and say, hey, look, leave me alone, play your game, and expect there not to be a consequence. There's going to be a consequence. And I think there's a host of issues that are causing this rift in our culture, where there's no respect, there's no desire to respect law. Kids want to kill. If you go on any of these Hulus and Tubi and Netflix, flick through the channel, and all these actors that are anti-gun, they all have movies that have guns, violence, and things that are, debauchery. So are these affecting our kids? Are these affecting our culture? Is it the gun, or is it that we're allowing these kids and we're just kind of withdrawing parental oversight?
We're losing parental oversight in the family. Families these days aren't as intact as they used to be, and overall, I think we're experiencing a culture of death in this nation, not a culture of life. And all these things have consequences. They have an effect, and decisions that are made have this ripple effect.
So going back to some of the things that are affecting the country, and on that line, there was a Supreme Court decision which basically shut down the Blaine Amendment. And the Blaine Amendment was adopted years and years ago because those Catholics, they didn't want the Catholics teaching the kids.
Explain the Blaine Amendment.
The Blaine Amendment, basically, a lot of the Protestants wanted to stop the Catholicism from having a strong foothold because they thought there was some type of persecution that was going to go on. And so they created the Blaine Amendment in certain states, which said that public money could not be used for education and
in a church school.
In a church setting. And so it backfired on them, because then it basically said, hey, you can't use any public money for any kind of religious education. And so pox on both your houses. And so basically the public schools got a monopoly for years and years and years. And so the Supreme Court recently said, hey, listen, this Blaine Amendment was unconstitutional because there is a religious liberty that we're all, you cannot discriminate one against the other, and the state cannot say that you can't have this. I thought it was really interesting. If you read our Constitution, and it talks about how that we elect our teachers. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, it's in our Constitution. It's cool. And one of the things that it also talks about is piety, so that the kids can learn piety. Well, don't look at today's definition of piety. You look at what it meant back then. Yeah. So what is piety? And it has a lot to do with religious virtues. And that was part of our Constitution, and yet somehow, now we're talking about pronouns and rainbows rather than math and we got people talking about critical race theory and rather than educating them in some of the classic forms, because that's being deemed
morality has changed.
And this is hurting us, okay? And it's dividing us, and it's setting one group against another group, and then making one particular group the cause of all of their suffering. And so, critical race theory, that was one of the issues that we took care of in the first in the first year. We basically said, hey, look, you cannot discriminate, and teach discrimination. You can teach that it happened, which is fine. It did.
It's history, sure.
It is history, and there's a push to make the founders all as racists and slave owners, and yet they don't talk about how that we had a revolution, and because of the revolution, you had to have a band of brothers that didn't necessarily agree on slavery join together to fight against King George, and so you had the South and the North joining together at one point to fight King George. And then later on, of course, then we had our Civil War. But that's not being taught. They're being taught that Washington and Jefferson were being were racist. And
I think there's a desire to tear down our culture even further. We talked a moment ago about tearing down the family and consequences to choices and ripple effect and all that. And here it's tearing down the culture. I think tearing down the history, tearing down the monuments. it just further destroys culture.
And trying to keep the blame up. Everybody is getting blamed for something that happened 200 years ago.
Yeah, and why are we responsible? Why punish the children for the sins of the fathers, for number one? But what's happening is there are a group of individuals out there that want to subjugate your conscience to their determined definition of words that will change like the wind. And
that's a very good way to put it. They want to subjugate your conscience.
Yeah.
And by subjugating your conscience, they also kind of force you into being a subject too.
it's legalized bullying.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we don't allow bullying in school, but boy, after you graduate,
Yep.
you can't say he, she, it, whatever, and it's so. There are a lot of issues, and it's a constant battle. I think one of the really highlights of our legislation is we supported having kids to have their own lemonade stand. Believe it or not, there was a resistance to that. Yeah.
From whom?
I'm not going to mention names, but without a permit. It's funny. I remember when I was a kid, I used to drive down to Janot's on my bike, and I used to see kids with little lemonade stand. And I just stop and I give them a quarter. Back then, that was a lot of money. But it was just, it's Americana. Come on.
Yeah.
Don't try to regulate that. Make them have a license, please. It's just overreach. Come on, let's take a
Nobody's
risk.
been poisoned by any lemonade stand.
I haven't been, not lately,
No.
But and
So can you wrap up in a way what the major accomplishments were?
well, we definitely reduced taxes. We reduced regulations. We definitely helped out with the DD community, including a peer review, a peer at Hampton Beach, hopefully for the handicapped individuals. That'd be great. That was my bill. We had some energy bills which promoted using more clean energy. One of the bills that I proposed was 109, SB 109. It allowed local municipalities to utilize solar and hydro, so it can help reduce the cost of running your cities and local municipalities. That's one of the things that the governor did sign. And we wanted to expand that, and we did it as much as we could. We saved the bio plant up north, which generates 74 megawatts. So energy is a real big concern of people. We've got the issues with the windmills, offshore wind. That's something that we protected New Hampshire from, so that we can engage in that. We can tap into that, and instead of being excluded. There
that
just
would
a
be-
host of other bills. There's like 1,300 of them. So.
Well, are you saying that there's any one subject area that's going to be emphasized in the next session?
In the next session,
Let Dave know what he's going to be.
I think there'll definitely be a host of issues. I know we already settled the abortion issue here in New Hampshire. It's 24 weeks. It's not like Roe v. went away. There are some extremists that want to go up to birth, and there are some people that said, 24 weeks was a reasonable compromise, and so that shouldn't be an issue. People are going to try to make it an issue because they want to be able to extinguish the child up to birth. Or
I
rather,
think they also want to distract from real issues that are affecting folks.
Right.
And that's the economy and inflation. And
Right.
that will be
prices. That's going to be the effort, I think.
There's going to be a huge push on definitely reducing the cost of goods, and definitely energy is going to be another issue. It's the pocketbook. And right now, people are not going to want an income tax. I know my opponent wanted one, and it's just not.
Yeah,
now
that's
it's
the
not.
last thing we need. We talked about how
Not now.
reducing taxes stimulates an economy, and if you corollary to that is if you increase taxes, you're destimulating the economy.
Yep.
And we don't want to destimulate the New Hampshire economy.
Land and water also are going to be an issue. We've got a lot of PFAS issues, and so I probably will put in something about a salinization plant. Because there's definitely
A need for pure water.
for clean water.
Yeah.
Because PFAS is a rising issue. We have landfill issues. We do not recycle in New Hampshire. And so I put in a bill allowing for a recycling plant. And hopefully, some of these landfills are going to, they're getting old and there's so much room. And so you are going to need some new areas. And so permitting is definitely going to be a very big issue. Elections is definitely going to be another issue. People want more hand counts. They want to be able, they don't trust the machines. It's just a matter of fact, and I know in my own election, I gained 52 votes and so did my opponent. That's never happened in history.
Well, we saw too what happened in Wyndham.
Yeah.
It went from a 24 vote margin to a 400 vote margin.
Yeah.
Based on doing a hand count when people believed in the integrity of the machine count. And you'd like to think that technology would be able to count accurately, but for whatever reason,
There's
there was
always
a problem.
something
And I think
nobody
that
figures.
we have to have
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
at home who believe in the integrity of this
Yeah,
election.
and if they don't, then that hurts our republic. It hurts our whole idea of justice because if our votes can get watered down, and if you speak up and you're ridiculed for it, that's not good either.
Right.
So, but I think it would be really interesting to hear what some of the local folks are dealing with.
Well, we're going to have to take a break right now, and we'll be back in a minute with a guest who will talk about her situation and today's economic.
Good.
Okay, this program is brought to you by the Nashua Republican City Committee. They meet the second Wednesday of every month at the Marriott, and we welcome you. And on August 26th, we're going to have a big party over there. So if you want to go to that party, go to the NashuaGOP.org site and find out the information about the program. Hello, we're back again, and we have a guest that's on the phone that's going to help us understand a person who is limited in her ways, a number of ways, and she is Elizabeth, and she's on the phone. Elizabeth, can you tell our audience a little bit about some of your recent experiences with your medical problems and your the increase in the cost of living?
Well, yeah, it's difficult. I live on Social Security, and in February I had a minor heart attack, and it's being treated with meds, but my legs have been very weak, and so I got sent to rehab twice, and also have physical therapy at home here. The hospital bill has come in, and the rides back and forth to the hospital and whatever have come in, and it's difficult to pay for those on my salary, on my Medicare. I was not really thrilled with my treatment at the Greenbrier or Ridgewood. I don't think that the medical industry has done right by me. They've very poor service, I think, particularly at Greenbrier. They are grossly understaffed, and the things that I had to tolerate there were substandard as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I had no experience with either facilities like that before. I kind of stay away from the medical industry, and I didn't know what to expect. And I don't believe that what the rehab people are doing is up to par. They've, I mean, some of the things that happened there were just unbelievable. Breakfast was terrible every day, the same thing, and it came in cold. You had to send it out, all your meals out, to be reheated. They had, when they did that, this little thing of egg that looked like a sponge, and your
Did they
muffin was floppy. It was, and then that's just the minor things that went on. I mean, I had 2 days, twice that my bed went without sheets because they didn't have enough clean sheets. Sometimes you'd ring the day call bell, and it'd be an hour before they came back to find out what was wrong and what you needed. It to me was not up to par. But anyway, since then, the electric company has said they're going to double the rates, and it's just getting to be unreal. I mean, I sold my car so that I could pay for a bed, and thank God I don't have to pay for the gasoline prices that are going up. But for someone who's on Social Security, the food costs are going up. It's just unbelievable what's happening here in this country.
Well,
I don't know how many retirement people can survive, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Your situation, though, probably is not uncommon to a number of people that are out there in this world today. But have they said anything to you about why they're deficient in the services that you experience?
Oh, well, getting an answer out of anybody at these places was very difficult. Getting the same person, people to say the same. You never see the same person twice as far as the health care. It's not like you had a team of people. They were pulling people from the Alzheimer's section to come over. The health care decided they weren't going to pay anymore. So I either had to leave or contest it. I contested it the first time, and they did pay for a couple more days. But then the second time, they would not approve any longer. So I had to come home. Otherwise, I would be paying $400 a day to stay there at Greenbrier.
Elizabeth,
And I couldn't
who
do
is
that.
they? Who are they? Who's the people that wouldn't pay?
United Healthcare.
United Healthcare. So,
United Healthcare.
having spoken with you at the office, you are writing this down so that we can bring this to attention to some.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Because
yes.
we definitely
Both
want to
places,
follow up with
Ridgewood
that because
I
you're not
will,
the only one that's going through this apparently.
Well, there are a lot of people there. I feel that Greenbrier did a huge renovation of one of their wings in the front of the office. They spent an awful lot of money, but they were paying, LNAs $13 an hour. I just feel that the money was not well spent, particularly for people who were there captive to them that had to deal with the kind of service that they were giving. They lost my clothes. I had a pair of pants and a shirt they lost. They sent home somebody else's medications
Elizabeth,
with my medication.
how are you getting your food if you can't get out?
I have a delivery service from Hannaford's,
Mm-hmm.
and that's $10 and then $5 for a tip. So it's $15 extra on my food to get a delivery service. And, I have trouble. I can't get out of the house at all. And so that's the only thing I do. The same with my medications. I have to have them delivered, and that's another $6 for a delivery fee. And, I choose to be here in my home. I will not go to a assisted living place. So, I have to pay those fees. And I'm sure there are a lot of people. The big to-do about, staying in your home when you're retired is kind of a laugh in a way. It's costing. It really is costing.
Do you get Meals on Wheels at all?
No, I do not. I cook my own meals. I have a girl that I pay to come in twice for couple hours every day.
Mm-hmm.
And she does my laundry. She does the dishes. Sometimes she'll cook my breakfast for me and all that. But even that, I pay her $20 an hour. That's really not maybe the best, price for her. But that's what I can afford right now, and that money is dwindling. The money that I got from selling my car is, going down, so I can't afford to have her forever.
I know.
But
On some home health cares, it's about $35 an hour to pay for
Well-
for some, and so that's that's what like a medium cost is. And so for these nursing homes, to be paying $13 an hour. Now I understand why HHS didn't want the home health care, because they can reduce their costs by getting somebody for $13 an hour.
Well, are there any
Well-
state services that she could use that she's not aware of?
I know Caroline Virtue. We've had her on the show in the past. She and Jeff Curlup. They provide those services for individuals. We could find that out, but that's what they do, and they advocate for individuals rather than somebody getting $13 an hour and who's just coming in and putting in their hours. They're giving you the top of the line service, but again, everybody's trying to save a buck, and the people who get hurt are those that are at the servicee, if you will, and they're not getting.
Yeah, the problem is those who are on the fixed income. 'Cause
Right.
It's like we talked about before. If Social Security doesn't keep up, and it's not going to, Medicare is not going to keep up with rising costs, then that money's got to come from somewhere. And so in this case, Elizabeth had to sell her car, but that's not invested somewhere. That's just those resources are being depleted.
And they're being tapped by people that are being shipped around the country. That's
Yes.
why this is one of the reasons why this is hurting individuals, because these other people are taking from the resources that can
Yeah.
help with the people that have been here and contributing.
And paying into the system for all these years.
Yeah, and it's
Well, this is not the Medicare, the medical that I was expecting to get when I retired.
Yeah.
It is not. I mean, I have people coming to the house. I get 1 day of home care. One lady comes in to help me take a shower or fix a meal or something. 1 day a week. I mean, that's kind of a laugh. It really is kind of a laugh from healthcare. That's not what I thought home care was supposed to be. But like I said, I do have this young lady that comes in all the time for me. So.
how do you heat your house?
Well, I have gas, and I have not had a gas payment for a whole year, which is brilliant. It was wonderful because it went through that Friends of I can't remember the name. They're down there on Ald Street. I think it's Ald Street. That has been paid for, and I've been very, very thankful for that. If I had to pay that on top of what I'm doing here, it would have been disastrous. It's
Is there any
unbelievable.
rehab work that's being done for you, or
The rehab work,
yeah?
I didn't understand.
Well, I was wondering if anybody came over and helped you, help your body work for you.
Well, I have rehab coming to the house. A home health and hospice comes, and I've been doing a lot better, but I still have not been able to get out of the house because of this bad knee that I have that's frozen, that I can't bend very far. And so they are helping me to, learn how to get out of the door, so at least I could go to the doctor's office. That's the minimum that I'm looking for, because I need to see the cardiologist, and I need to see another doctor that I can't think of the name of right now, but and then to see my PCP. I need to be able to get out, and then finding a way to get there, since I don't drive anymore.
But you've had some friends that be able to help you. I understand.
Oh yes, I have very good neighbors. My neighbors have been watching over me, and I have a lot of wonderful people in my life that help and keep me poised. Keeps my spirits up and everything. But it's not easy. It's not easy. But I'm very grateful. I have a lot of gratitude. Grateful for what I do have. But this last thing with the electric company, I applied for assistance with the electric company, and I think I get about $1 off of every bill that I have, which is not terribly exciting. and then they're going to double the cost of electricity. Everybody here is going to be living in the dark, turning off the lights and whatever pretty soon. I just don't know how much more one can take,
Do you see any other big problems that might be coming up, either financially or physically, that you have to you're worried about?
Well, financially, I am worried because I need to have somebody here in the house. I'm redoing one of the rooms upstairs so that I could rent it out either to a traveling nurse or, someone else, so that I have some money coming in, and then I can pay my little assistant here. But that's taking time, getting the room cleaned up and everything and repainted and all that stuff, which costs money.
Well, I think that we're seeing that folks across the country, and certainly right here in New Hampshire, are struggling with all of these things. The issues with inflation and rising energy costs no one's immune from that. Nobody is immune. That's hitting every single person in the state. And I think that the sentiment we're hearing here is playing out in everybody's home across the state, and certainly right here in Nashua. So we need to find...
even my neighbor here, who is working, she works from home, came over the other day, and she's the one that mentioned she just can't believe it. The electric's going to go up double, and she was just livid.
I think we all are.
Well, yeah, I think that's going up double. We've seen gasoline pretty much double.
Food costs.
We've seen food costs escalate. All these things are related to energy. Energy is a prime driver for an economy. It's needed to keep an economy afloat because everything is moved. Everything requires energy. So the costs, based on lack of energy policy in the country, effective energy policy, practical energy policy, is we're suffering.
Well, I think what they plan is not very good. I mean, you say they don't have a policy. They do have a policy of avoiding some of the sources of
and blaming others.
You got to buy an electric car. That would solve your problems.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So, how is your property taxes? Have those stabilized, or are they going up?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I hate to say it, but I have a retirement exemption, elderly exemption, and my taxes were very, very low.
Good.
For the house, which I was able to pay, but come the fall, when we get the new ones and the new budget, I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm hoping that I'll be able to afford them then, but we'll see. That is a concern for me too, the property tax. But God is very good to me. He's blessed me, I tell you, of being able to fight my way out of a paper bag, You have to learn how to manage your money better and jiggle this and jiggle that to make it work. But
well, we appreciate you coming on the show and sharing with us because I think there are a lot of other people that are going to be able to identify with the same thing that you're going through. And even those that are doing pretty well are starting to really think about what's going on, So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I think the counseling for the elderly who want to stay in their home is very, very important. What are your avenues of to be able to make that happen? And I don't think there's enough education about that.
And really, I think people realize, they're starting to realize now, that it's not cheap in the long run if we can help you get served in your own home rather than trying to have some other kind of facility take care of you.
Well, you know what I don't understand is I bought a new bed because I needed a hospital bed to help me get out of bed, to go up and down. The price I paid for that was half the price of what they would have, the health insurance would have paid to get me a bed, and it's much better than the one that, like down at Sharon's, but they wouldn't reimburse me. They'd rather pay the higher price. I just don't understand that at all.
Yeah, you have to find how to get those things done. I know my first wife had ALS, and we were able to find out a lot of things that could be done that most people didn't hear about.
Uh-huh. Well, the social worker that came with home health and hospice was not very she was not very helpful. There were not a lot of things that I would qualify for that would help me out here. And I don't know why they have social workers, but even at Greenbrier, the social worker, I didn't feel was very helpful for me. I just didn't feel that she was able to, offer ideas or whatever. I just was not thrilled.
Well, we're looking
say
forward to
the
that
least.
documentation that you're preparing. So we'll present that to the commissioners and see what if they can look into this a little bit more. Because if you're not the only one, not that this, if this is indication of how they're on a routine basis treating people, it needs to be looked at. Yeah.
Well, they're at Greenbrier scrimping. I'm telling you, when it was 2 weeks before I got the telephone number for the kitchen, and when I did, you had to leave a message. Nobody answered the phone.
That's I hate that.
You had to leave a message. Like
Do not do
then
that.
I
Give me
found out I
somebody.
could
Give
get
me
a
somebody. Yeah.
salad instead of the regular meal. I had call up and say, okay, this is Elizabeth in room 112, and I want a salad instead of the regular meal. And then you got it, but it was like, come on, folks.
You want some dressing with that too? Or ketchup?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well,
for,
I got a lot of other funny things too that just doesn't make any sense to me. But then, like I said, I'm not familiar with these facilities and what you can and cannot get. So, anyhow, gentlemen, I'm hoping that this will be helpful. That maybe people will wake up and vote the right way to help get us out of this mess we're in.
well, very good. Thank you very much for your time, and we're praying for you to have a better future.
Thank you. I could use your prayers very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's interesting, and I think that's one of the things that I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. And so we, obviously we got to address it. I know that she's called me, and we're going to address that with her complaint and bring that up to some officials. But I'm sure there are other people out there with the same issues. I know a gentleman on Vine Street, and it's a long story, but I think Elizabeth basically said the same thing that a lot of people are saying. Vote and make sure you vote.
It's very important to vote. And I think that her situation is compounded by the medical. There are plenty of folks who don't have medical issues who are in the same situation of being on fixed income.
Right.
And again, with the price of everything going up, they're going to be stuck in the same jam. So it's not just those who have suffered an injury or heart attack or whatnot. It's normal people who have saved for their retirement. They've been responsible all their lives, and now they're going to be squeezed by the things that are going on.
And inflation is
I
just
know.
making
Sold
it
the car
worse.
to make it worse. Well, it is. I mean, that's what's really causing this. It's inflation. Social Security isn't enough anyway. We need other retirement mechanisms in our own individual portfolios. But inflation is really crippling a lot of folks, not just kind of in textbook
You
out there
never make
somewhere.
it back. You never make it
No,
back.
you won't make it back.
Were you able to check out the budget recently, the new budget here locally?
I have not seen.
I haven't seen it either, but she mentioned that she's not looking forward to the fall. So hopefully there's not going to be some major increases. But we got some new buildings going up.
We got new buildings going up, and we're doing a lot of spending in the city. My wife is on the Board of Public Works, and they're investing in this, or spending money on this new building. That there's a lot of feel good stuff in there, a lot of virtue signaling with alternative energy sources that are going into this thing, and this stuff costs money. It costs money. And I think that the amount it's costing would shock a lot of people. And where's that going to come from? It's going to come from
See what
raising taxes.
Duchess is bragging about, though?
I didn't see that.
Oh, you haven't? It's they got some area, some group that voted this the fourth best city to live in.
I think that these folks don't peek behind the curtain. It sounds great. but they're
They
talking
have-
to the same 6 people every time.
Yeah, look on
they
your
come
website.
through,
They
and
do,
it's a myth.
Yeah, I love Nashua.
I do too.
And I've been here a good portion of my life. I grew up on Harbor Ave and went to Temple Street, Spring Street, and Elm Street, and we've been living here in the city for a while. I do love it. I think it's my home. It will always be my home, it seems. And but I think there, if the problem is if you keep talking to the same 6 people, that we call that an echo chamber.
Right.
And an echo chamber basically tells you what you want to hear. If you go outside that echo chamber, people are struggling, and they feel as though they're not being heard, and that's a problem.
Yeah. Clearly, they haven't spoken with Elizabeth to come up with that ranking.
No. And so, anyway, Carl, thank you for having us on the show today.
I think it was a good one.
Yeah. And so we have, what, 3
Thank
minutes
you
left?
for participating.
We're 3 minutes over.
We're 3 minutes over. So,
Yeah. No, I'm going to give another thing about the Republican.
okay. So are we cut? Are we
We're
still,
not cut. We're still on.
Oh, we're still on.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. We're just babbling now. Well, thank you for watching the show, Carl. Thank you for having us, and Dave, I wish you the best. I know Pastor Paul Burr, he's also running in Ward
Yes, he
3,
is.
and I think that'll be a refreshing election if you folks get in. We look forward to having you up there, and I'll be running as well. I'm
Yeah,
running,
that's right. We got to make sure you get the
Yeah.
vote for that.
we want to, I'm asking you for your vote, and I find it to be an honor, and we're trying to deal with these issues that Elizabeth did talk about, whether DD community, healthcare, mental illness, there's a whole host of issues. And I think we have a good track record, and hopefully you'll let me go back up and serve some more.
And listen in for the future shows that we have. We'll
Yeah.
be talking about this.
Yeah, we have some more shows coming up, and so please subscribe to our channels. And,
Channel 96.
Channel
and,
96, and share with your friends, and come on the show.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for watching The People's View. And if you like this show, please hit subscribe and like the show and share it with your friends. And if you'd like to come on the show, just let us know.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.